Hey guys, welcome to our review of the final episode of Kishiryu Sentai RyuSoulger. As always, I'm your host, Stratos. Here with me today we have
the Cinder Blaze
and Makotoa.
Evil as ever. Guys, welcome back to Toku Week. We're going to be covering a whole bunch of Toku content, but today is, our finale discussion, and we watched this yesterday so that you guys could comment on the watch along, and we will be responding to those comments in this video. But before we get to that, let's just dig into this episode. It was good, and I'm going to do my best to try not talking like sort of overarching themes and all that stuff for the show as a whole. This episode, just the finale. We'll get to what we can do with the entire show later, but this was a very solid finale. It absolutely stuck the landing.
Yeah. Shoot, this is probably one of the best Sentai final episodes we've had.
Right?
In a very long time.
It's been, yeah. I can't remember the last time I had that.
Yeah. And for some reason, I think I'll probably remember this one a little bit, distinctly from a lot of the other Sentai endings, just because of that one scene in the middle where Ko died. I felt the way they handled that scene was probably one of the best I've seen at a Sentai.
Yeah,
it was it's a serious moment, but it still had that kind of lightheartedness that Ko has, that innocence that he has, that was necessary to kind of complete that scene. And just everything about him and his character just kind of brought to the forefront. And it was great.
And I feel like people have been, since the inception of this show, have been comparing this to RyuSoulger. And what I think this does far better than RyuSoulger did was the last second death and revival bait and switch. Because I don't know if you even remember, but Uchi sort of just died suddenly and then immediately came back to life. Completely unearned. Don't know why any of it ever happened, but this, it gave, there was a narrative reason why he had to die. And so much character work to bring him to the point where he got brought back to life. And it worked so well in this finale's favor. And I feel like the ballsiest move they did this episode for me was having the final fight without Red at all. His suit, not present. And on top of that, you felt his missing presence. And the way the director blocked it, or the way they shot it, it was so impactful. Having them leave room for him in the roll call, it did two things for me. It showed me that they're not used to being without him, and this is just by muscle memory where they belong, and they're not used to having his absence. And two, or a different way that you could read the scene, is that we are leaving space for him in honor of the person who died, basically trying to save us. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was very powerful as well. So either way that you see it, it's so subtle, and you see his presence missing in each of the shots. And I don't know, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It spoke volumes without overtly saying anything.
Yeah, and I kind of took it the other way. That space was there. There was an emptiness there, technically, but I felt like Red was still there the entire time. His presence was still there in the fight. And technically, even when they were going for that final attack, he was going for the attack too, just within Eras. And he was the one that kind of let Eras kind of accept this fate. He put in as much work in that final attack as the rest of his team. So that was just that was like an amazing final blow.
You're
like
right.
honestly,
Yeah.
I love that reading of that scene. That absolutely makes sense. I love that.
In conjunction with all of that, I want to say, because we talked about this after we watched the episode, and this wasn't part of the watch along, we just talked about this afterwards. Like, we were talking about how Melto was the one to pick up his sword and kind of take over as that leadership role in that moment. And we were talking about why it was he earned that throughout the show rather than it being Kanalo. You know, how that actually seemed more fitting for him to be that de facto leader in that moment rather than Kanalo.
I agree it was more fitting. I don't necessarily think that it was earned.
I mean, I liked it a lot. I think, you know, as much as we crapped on Melto throughout the show, because he did end up becoming like a bit, you know, joked on at times. He also was that go-to guy for the plan throughout the show as well. That like, I mean, that the reason why you saw that moment where, you know, Ko turns around and then gets stabbed, he's like, he was looking to Melto for a plan, you know.
Mm-hmm. I feel like in that moment he was definitely the person to go to because he probably would have a plan for that situation. But I think in his stead, who I would love taking up the leadership role is Asuna. Just because it was what she said to the group that snapped them out of them thinking, oh wait, maybe we shouldn't just sleep forever and live without our friends. And it was about, you know, her and wanting their bond to be so strong. And it like her dedication to the team led her to creating basically a school at the end of it for them all to come back to. Like she said it at the end, I wanted somewhere that we could all return to, you know. I feel like it would have been cooler if she picked up the sword. Obviously, Blue's got the plan, and Blue is not girl, so the show is probably going to do that thing. Yeah. Wouldn't have happened, but
it would have been nice like that if that, because I would have loved that to follow into Ko and her actually getting together at the end after that. Like honestly, like
I mean, after that, it would have been a little bit weird. Just because if she kind of did that, it would kind of like signify like a moving on type of mood, and then for them to kind of like get back together at the end, it would feel a little bit weird for me.
Yeah.
But like for me, like I think that Melto was the proper choice, just because, you know, he's the one that they probably interacted with the most outside of Ko. You know, like Black and Green interact with Melto pretty frequently. Kanlo doesn't like somewhat interact with Melto just because he's like dating his sister.
Bro, yeah.
And then like Asuna and Ko and Melto have always been the three-man unit. So like it would make sense for like, you know, Melto to be like the leader because he's the one that's kind of connecting them all. And like I do know like Asuna's the one that kind of like snagged some of them out, but I feel like that was more for Kanalo. And I felt like you know, that moment was pretty powerful, but a lot of the other ones already kind of snapped out of it and they're already kind of like going. So like it was mostly for like him. Also, she didn't really interact nearly as much with the other like cast. Like
that's fair.
Yeah.
But that's mostly because like it's a boys club anyways, and you know there's always that bias, but you gotta work with what you have.
She got some really great moments though.
Throughout the show.
Yeah, like I'm happy with the way they handled most of the characters, honestly. I think the only one I have qualms with is Kanalo because I just couldn't take him seriously enough anymore because he was just always his entire existence was that punchline, you know?
I mean, up until the end when he sort of cooled down, I really, you know what? I think I might start getting too much into the
we're starting
too big. Yeah, how do we feel about where all these characters are sort of landing at the end of the show? I found just about all of them to be pretty fitting. I have no qualms.
Yeah, I think when Black was letting go of Green a little bit more. Like that scene kind of like touched me a little bit more. But I felt like I wish there was more development on that part of his character. Because like we always knew that they were like always together, and like there's something special about Toa, but what we got at the end was just like him doing the super speed like out of nowhere, which
that was something they didn't like follow up on. They just left that plot thread. They were like, oh hey, what's that? What did you just do?
Yeah,
like I think that was like the payoff, but it didn't.
That wasn't the payoff. That was the setup.
That was the payoff, which is also the setup. But who cares? Like maybe we'll have another source of media after this. We can explore that, but
it would be nice, yeah.
Yeah, like I think Toe is definitely shafted a lot more. Like I think even Asuna had him a lot more in the series. So yeah, especially with
Greens don't typically get a lot, do they?
Yeah,
they get to dry their hands.
Move on to an actual point, please.
A minute.
Yeah, I'm glad it actually hit you guys, because otherwise that would have just been awkward.
No, I got it. But then, like, Michael reacted like, "Oh, I didn't get it." Like, come on, who else is referencing?
Let's talk about I guess the weird pedestal that I almost called him Lucky. My brain space is back at that crossover we watched. That Ko put his dinky little claw on that little pedestal to like look at a hologram of or like a astral projection of
Naga? Not Naga. Oh my god.
Naga?
Naga. He shows up. Buttons. I don't know. How do we feel about that? Because like
I thought it was just just a kind of not really like Nada wasn't really there. It was just kind of like a mental image thing. But
it was manifesting in some way. I wonder if it's like a holographic grave or tombstone or something.
I don't know. I felt like it was more like his memory of Nada, because one thing, like Nada's passion for becoming a RyuSoulger was like intense. He wanted to be that more than anything, and like his efforts actually did, influence this whole like fight. He gave Ko that power that helped him, defeat Eros and stuff, and he's just kind of like happy. We did it. So, I kind of like appreciated like his respect for.
I'm glad that he was even mentioned at all and not just completely forgotten.
Yeah,
because that could have happened.
I feel like with this director, whether or not there are like, there are things meddling with the story that's like sort of out of his control. Like, oh hey, we have a toy to do this. He at least. From what I've seen, I don't know who in the staff, either the writer or the director, they at least keep some of that continuity still steady, and all of the events still weigh on their mind, at least the bigger ones. And Nada, and I feel like for everyone watching, Nada had some of the biggest moments for this show and like really put RyuSoulger back on the map for a lot of people.
Too big.
Had to take him out. I wanna talk about another sort of character death or sacrifice that was made that I feel like got overshadowed by Ko's actually, which were the Zords.
Yeah, that is strange. Yeah, I had that. I was about ready to jump to that point. I honestly thought and would have loved it either way if they found a way to still keep them, still have them there. But the fact that they were at wit's end and they were giving it their all, it was beautiful to see. I mean, granted, only 2 or 3 of them really spoke, but those characters are sealed away. And another side effect of that is like, I absolutely like I groaned and rolled my eyes a little bit that like little bits of their power just sort of flowed into the RyuSouls, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we just have to have another fight again, so this makes sense. But then when Eris said something like, oh, how do you expect to kill me with those fading embers? And I really liked that sort of pseudo explanation for those powers, like just brief glimpses of power to,
yeah,
just echoes of power. I liked it.
Hero Academia vibes.
They basically like launched a nuke at him, and like all the radiation just kind of like some of it just like absorbed back into the
just
things.
Grab the spec.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Just put that.
They did. They used them. They used it up.
They
used up the specs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is one of the most solid finales I've seen, and without getting too far into like overall themes, like this was honestly the most well done finale arc that I've seen in the past few years.
You think it's because we didn't have the biggest expectations for it since?
Well, I feel like my expectations began growing once it actually started hitting really well.
I agree.
And once it finally ended, and I don't know, like I was fully on board, and I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be really good, and I was not disappointed. Like it absolutely met my expectations, and it surpassed it in a lot of ways. So I don't know, the finale arc just really had a good way of building on itself, and like it was really good. I don't know.
How about the moment when they invaded the darkness and saved Ko? What were our thoughts on that? Because I think I didn't quite understand how they went about it.
They were scuba diving.
Yeah. I'm in the camp of it kind of doesn't matter, and it's like this visual representation like of what probably like this. I don't know, like it didn't look the way it actually happened. We just got this very nice visual of them physically bringing him back.
Yeah, I feel like Shippuden diver style
happened when they stabbed Eris, like right in like the heart or like the core, and that's probably where Ko was. He was like absorbed and locked in there. So when they kind of penetrated it, their spirits are kind of like in their swords, and they kind of like pushed out to Ko, and that kind of helped bring him back.
He pinataed Ko out.
Yeah, I mean, like,
well, I mean, you don't typically scuba dive into your piñata and grab the candy with it.
It's somewhat like that, but I feel like Eris like willingly.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Where like Eris's last kind of, because she did say, "Oh, well, it seems like you guys surpassed me, so I guess you don't need me anymore." That kind of thing or whatever. And so she kind of had that self-resignation where maybe she had a slight change of heart, and then she could have let his life energy go at the last minute or something.
Go.
So Weisel and Crayon didn't really do much this
That's
finale.
Fine.
Yeah. They stole away not Eris.
I don't care because they had a happy ending, and that makes me happy.
And like they're like, hey, let's just hang out and have some fun. I know you tried to kill us, but all's forgiven.
Yeah.
You know what? They lived. They survived.
They won.
Hell yeah, dude.
I wanted at least one roll call with them. That's all I really wanted.
I don't know. Just wait for the V cinema or something. I don't know what to tell you.
But there's no time for it, so I'm not like too butthurt about it.
There was another point that I wanted to touch on. It wasn't. It feels like it was minor. If you can't tell, I've forgotten my point.
Well, I think I think that Ko's actor, once again, it's weird that I'm praising Red so much because at the beginning of the show I really didn't like him.
Yeah.
But he really grew into the role, and I really grew to like the character, surprisingly. So, and this finale, it nailed it for me.
Yeah. I do. We can talk about that a lot more in the full series review.
Yeah.
Especially for Red.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just a teaser for what's to come, because RyuSoulger technically isn't over, at least as of our coverage. But tomorrow and the day after, we're going to be taking a break from RyuSoulger. We're going to do the rest of our weeklies. 01, Hero Major, episode 0, that's coming out tomorrow and the day after. And then also, hey, if you have any thoughts about the full series, go into the comments down below and tell us, because we're doing our full series review that's coming out Sunday. So get your messages in on Saturday at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because that's, we record the day before. So you have a lot of time. Get your comments in as long as you want, guys. Free reign, but just be keep it civil, I guess. I say as long as you want, but like within reason. We gotta read it on a show. Oh, hey.
Hello.
Comments, and I almost forgot.
Comments. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do comments. Sorry about that, guys. But we got comments here. We got 2 comments. One from Tommy Lulu in the chat says, "It ended strongly, surprisingly. I just wished it was more consistent." Well, it was consistently fun, at least for us.
Yeah.
I see what they mean, though, because the story was definitely not the strong point for a lot of the show. You know, we came to terms with that, but that doesn't mean everybody else will.
Yeah, I understand that, like, that's what a lot of people are coming for, but after a while, that just wasn't what I wanted out of the That's going into our full series review.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely understand it. It swung.
Yeah, save that. Let's make a mental note to save that comment for the full series review.
Give us a little bit more this time in the comments, like expound on it a bit more. And lastly, we have Double the Unknown. This was a very good finale and a really good capped off and really good. Wait, no. Oh my god, I can't read today. Go. This was a very good finale and really capped off a very strong final arc for the show. I especially love Weisel and Crayon staying alive, but really have to wonder why Crayon's abilities were never addressed until the throwaway moment here. Did it change my overall opinion of the show? You'll find out soon. I'm sure we will.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, that's a wrap on this episode. Like I said, get your comments in before Saturday, 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because that's the day we're recording, so keep that in mind. That's very important. You have a lot of time, like I said, but and also, hey, got tons of Toku Week content coming up. Tomorrow, hopefully, we'll be doing our 01 watch along, and hopefully Kira Major will be up. If it's not, we'll throw it in there somewhere. Don't worry, we'll get to episode 0 once it's subbed. And yeah, we're covering the RyuSoulger movie, and we're covering the Lupat versus Q Ranger movie, which we filmed initially because I thought that the RyuSoulgers were going to be in there and we needed to watch it. They were not in there at all. Spoiler alert. So it was a time. So we recorded it and it'll be up. Yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us on this journey so far. It's not over. So, yeah, keep it juicy.
Yeah, see ya.
Later.
Oh, yo, that's freaking huge. Why does he have that power?
I'm thinking, yeah,
the Minosaurs were huge in like the early part of this plot.
You're right. The whole time Corey was doing the outro stuff, I'm like, oh, Yeah.
Yeah, like
that's they're traveling to his planet.
Maybe that'll be the V